Oh shit, here we go again.
It's just like the video says, folks. Here we go again. What do I mean by that, you're wondering? Well, with Daggerheart official release and the reveal of a combat wheelchair, we're having to go through the same bullshit we went through years ago. People thinking there shouldn't be wheelchair users and other disabled folk in D&D and other fantasy TTRPGs. But before we dive into that, introductions. Hey folks, my name is VJ Harris. My pronouns are they, them, he, him, and something funny. I'm a full-time tabletop role-playing designer and professional game master. You might recognize my name from things such as MCDM Productions, Arcadia, Flea Mortals, or An Elf and Nor Cat Little Baby, volumes 1 through 4. Okay, introduction done. Let's get back to it. So, many people either don't understand why disabilities, mostly wheelchair-based ones, would exist in a fantasy setting, and kind of specifically why adventurers would want to be disabled. And there are people that just think it's completely ridiculous, but they say that in less, let's say, savory words, as you can see on the screen right now. There's two approaches to explaining this. The Doylist approach, which refers to an out-of-universe explanation, so why we as real people playing a fantasy game would want disabled characters and to play disabled characters, and the Watsonian approach, which is talks about the fictional justification for disabled NPCs and player characters. Let's start off with the Doylist approach. Let me share my credentials. I am disabled. When I was in college, I got into a car accident and dislocated my hip, which nicked a nerve, and now I have drop foot, commonly referred to as foot drop, which is a condition where it is difficult to impossible to lift the front part of my foot. So let's imagine my wrist and hand are my actual foot. With a functioning foot, as I walk, I can lift it up with the ankle and let it back down. With drop foot, it only hangs down. It's been over a decade since that happened, so I've gotten a decent amount of mobility back in it, but it still causes me problems, and I have a brace I have to wear depending on the circumstance. Also, my hip gives me problems. That's what a dislocation will do to you, and I'm more likely to need a hip replacement when I get older. Finally, as far as physical disabilities go, I have OCD in my knee. In this context, OCD stands for osteochondritis dissecans, which is a condition where a segment of the bone and cartilage along with the underlying bone breaks loose from the main bone within the joint. It sounds like gravel sometimes when I bend and stretch my knee, and sometimes it just gives out on me. I've also got some other mental health stuff that would count as a disability, but that's not relevant for this video. Anyway, why should you put disabled people and characters into your fantasy games? The simple answer is because disabled people exist in the real world and they should exist in fictional worlds. Another answer is representation is important and disabled people deserve to see ourselves in the mediums we consume. Another answer is because sometimes disabled people want to play disabled characters. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case. I'm disabled and I will never play a disabled character. I hate being disabled. If someone could give me one wish, it would be to never have been disabled and to never be disabled. I'm more than the person I was before I was disabled. I feel like less than the person I would have been because I'm disabled. Now, some of that I just said is rooted in internalized ableism. Yes, it's something I'm working on. But the point being is, we in the disability community are not a monolith. And for every person like me, there is someone like these people. Okay, I think that covers all of the in-world, real-world reasons. If it doesn't, mention in the comments and I'll say more. Now for the Watsonian reason, we'll start off with the generalities and then we'll get into specifics. I don't know about you and your world of the stuff you've consumed, but for all the fantasy worlds I've created and consumed, regular people are always in jeopardy, whether it's from fire-breathing creatures, a massive tsunami wave, or any other strange things. NPCs die, and a lot of those that don't are left with lasting wounds and scars. And some of those will be things that disable them, like missing legs, broken bones, etc. Also, I've never heard of a fantasy setting where it's stated that people born with hereditary conditions don't exist. Find me a setting that says people can't be born blind, deaf, paralyzed, etc. Find me that and I'll send you $100. Hey folks, future fiscally responsible VJ, if you do find a setting like that, it would be really cool to let me know because I want to take a look at it, but I will not be able to pay $100, so keep that in mind. Anyway, back to younger me. But back to it, whether it's from external forces or internal forces, NPC, normal people, etc., can and will be disabled. And what do all player characters start off as? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, I know some of y'all might be agreeing with me in regards to the idea of NPCs, normal people, etc. being disabled, but you're also thinking, well, why wouldn't they just use magic to fix that? I am so happy you asked. Let's talk specifics. starting with Daggerheart. Over on TikTok, I saw a video and this person said, so Daggerheart doesn't have healing magic in regards to like the combat wheelchair, etc. There are 16 domain cards that can heal either yourself or others. Rune Ward, Vitality, Recovery, Inspirational Words, Share the Burden, Healing Field, Second Wind, Mending Touch, Restoration, Life Ward, Healing Strike, Zone of Protection, Healing Hands, Shield Aura, Salvation Beam, Lean on Me. Let's go through each one of them. Rune Ward. You have a deeply personal trinket that can be infused with protective magic and held as a ward by you and an ally. Describe what it is and why it's important to you. The ward's holder can spend a hope to reduce incoming damage by 1d8. If the ward die results is an 8, the ward's power ends after it reduces the damage this turn. It can be recharged for free on your next rest. Vitality. When you choose this card, permanently gain 2 of the following benefits. 1 stress slot, 1 hit point slot, +2 bonus to your damage thresholds. Then place this card in your vault permanently. Recovery. During a short rest, you can choose a long rest downtime move instead. You can spend a hope to let an ally do the same. Inspiration words. Your speech is imbued with power. After a long rest, place a number of tokens on this card equal to your presence. When you speak with an ally, you can spend a token from this card to give them 1 benefit from the following options. Your ally clears a stress, your ally clears a hit point, your ally gains a hope. When you take a long rest, clear all unspent tokens. Share the burden. Once per rest, take on the stress from a willing creature within melee range. The target describes what intimate knowledge or emotion telepathically leaks from their mind in this moment between you. Transfer any number of their marked stress to you, then gain a hope for each stress transferred. Healing Field. Once per long rest, you can conjure a field of healing plants around you. Everywhere within close range of you bursts to life with vibrant nature, allowing you and all allies in the area to clear a hit point. Spend 2 hope to allow you and all allies to clear 2 hit points instead. Second Wind. Once per rest, when you succeed on an attack against an adversary, you can clear 3 stress or a hit point. On a success with hope, you also clear 3 stress or a hit point on an ally within close range of you. Mending Touch. You lay your hands upon a creature and channel healing magic to close their wounds. When you can take a few minutes to focus on the target you're helping, you can spend 2 hope to clear a hit point or a stress on them. Once per long rest, when you spend this healing time learning something new about them or revealing something about yourself, you can clear 2 hit points or 2 stress on them instead. Restoration. After a long rest, place a number of tokens equal to your spellcast trait on this card. Touch a creature and spend any number of tokens to clear 2 hit points or 2 stress for each token spent. Life Ward. Spend 3 hope and choose an ally within close range. They are marked with a glowing sigil of protection. When this ally would make a death move, they instead clear a hit point. Healing Strike. When you deal damage to an adversary, you can spend 2 hope to clear a hit point on an ally within close range. Zone of Protection. Make a spellcast roll, 16. Once per long rest, on success, choose a point within far range and create a visible zone of protection there for all allies within very close range of that point. When you do, place a d6 on this card with the 1 value facing up. When an ally in the zone takes damage, they reduce it by the die value. You then decrease the die's value by 1. When the die's value would exceed 6, this effect ends. Healing Hands. Make a spellcast roll, 13, and target a creature other than yourself within melee range. On a success, mark a stress to clear 2 hit points or 2 stress on the target. On a failure, mark a stress to clear a hit point or a stress on the target. You can't heal the same target again until your next long rest. Shield Aura. Mark a stress to cast a protective aura on a target within very close range. When the target marks an armor slot, they reduce the severity of the attack by an additional threshold. If the spell causes a creature who would be damaged to instead mark no hit points, the effect ends. You can only hold Shield Aura on 1 creature at a time. Salvation Beam. Make a spellcast roll, 16. On a success, mark any number of stress to target a line of allies within far range. You can clear hit points on the targets equal to the number of stress marks, divided among them however you liked. Lean on Me. Once per long rest, when you console or inspire an ally who failed an action roll, you can both clear 2 stress. So, if you agree with the person asking about healing magic in Daggerheart, can you in the comments tell me how any of those abilities would heal things like blindness, deafness, paralysis, etc.? And I mean per the reading of the rules, not your interpretation of the text, the actual text. If anyone can do that, I will give them $100. Hey, future fiscally responsible VJ, we will give you $100 if you share one of the cards that does this. Okay, on to D&D. There are 12 spells that deal with healing and restoration, and a 13th one that can do pretty much anything. They are Healing Word, Cure Wounds, Healing Spirit, Prayer of Healing, Aura of Vitality, Mass Healing Word, Lesser Restoration, Greater Restoration, Heal, Regenerate, Power Word Heal, Mass Heal, and Wish. Let's look at each of them. Healing Word. A creature of your choice that you can see within range regains hit points equal to 1d4 plus your spell casting ability modifier. The spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Cure Wounds. A creature you can touch regains a number of hit points equal to 1d8 plus your spell casting ability modifier. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Healing Spirit. You call forth a nature spirit to soothe the wounded. The intangible spirit appears in a space that is a 5-foot cube you can see within range. The spirit looks like a transparent beast or fae, your choice. Until the spell ends, whenever you or a creature you can see moves into the spirit space for the first time on a turn or starts a turn there, you can cause the spirit to restore 1d6 hit points to the creature. No action required. The spirit can't heal constructs or undead. As a bonus action on your turn, you can move the spirit up to 300 feet to a space you can see. The spirit can heal a number of times equal to 1 plus your spellcasting modifier, minimum of twice. After healing that number of times, the spirit disappears. Prayer of Healing. Up to 6 creatures of your choice that you can see within range each regain hit points equal to 2d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Aura of Vitality. Healing energy radiates from you in an aura with a 30-foot radius. Until the spell ends, the aura moves with you, centered on you. You can use a bonus action to cause one creature in the aura, including yourself, to regain 2d6 hit points. Mass Healing Word. As you call out words of restoration, up to 6 creatures of your choice that you can see within range regain hit points equal to 1d4 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Mass Cure Wounds. A wave of healing energy washes out from a point of your choice within range. Choose up to 6 creatures in a 30-foot radius sphere centered on that point. Each target regains hit points equal to 3d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. The spell has no effects on construct or undead. Lesser Restoration. You touch a creature and can end either one disease or one condition afflicting it. The condition can be blinded, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned. Greater Restoration. You imbue a creature you touch with positive energy to undo a debilitating effect. You can reduce the target's exhaustion level by 1 or end one of the following effects on the target. One effect that charmed or petrifies the target, one curse including the target's attunement to a cursed item, any reduction to the target's ability scores, and one effect reducing the target's hit point maximum. Heal. Choose a creature that you can see within range. A surge of positive energy washes through the creature, causing it to regain 70 hit points. The spell also ends blindness, deafness, and any diseases affecting the target. The spell has no effect on constructs or undead. Regenerate. You touch a creature and stimulate its natural healing ability. The target regains 48 plus 15 hit points. For the duration of the spell, the target regains 1 hit point at the start of each of its turns, 10 hit points each minute. The target's severed body members, fingers, legs, tails, and so on, if any, are restored after 2 minutes. If you have the severed part and hold it to the stump, the spell instantaneously causes the limb to knit to the stump. Power Word Heal. A wave of healing energy washes over a creature you touch. The target regains all its hit points. If the creature is charmed, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned, the condition ends. If the creature is prone, it can use its reaction to stand up. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Mass Heal. A flood of healing energy flows from you into injured creatures around you. You restore up to 700 hit points, divided as you choose among any number of creatures that you can see within range. Creatures healed by this spell are also cured of all diseases and any effect making them blinded or deafened. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Wish. Wish is the mightiest spell a mortal creature can cast. By simply speaking aloud, you can alter the very foundations of reality in accord with your desires. The basic use of this spell is to duplicate any other spell of 8th level or lower. You don't need to meet any requirements in that spell, including costly components. The spell simply takes effect. Alternatively, you can create one of the following effects of your choice. You may create one object of up to 25,000 gold piece in value that isn't a magic item. The object can be no more than 300 feet in any dimension, and it appears in an unoccupied space you can see on the ground. You allow up to 20 creatures that you can see to regain all hit points, and you end all effects on them described in the Greater Restoration spell. You grant up to 10 creatures that you can see resistance to a damage type of your choice. You grant up to 10 creatures you can see immunity to a single spell or other magical effect for 8 hours. For instance, you can make yourself and all your companions immune to a Lich's life drain attack. You undo a single recent event by forcing a reroll of any roll made within the last round, including your last turn. Reality reshapes itself to accommodate the new result. For example, a wish spell could undo an opponent's successful save, a foe's critical hit, or a friend's failed save. You can force the reroll to be made with advantage or disadvantage, and you can choose whether to use the reroll or the original roll. You might be able to achieve something beyond the scope of the above examples. State your wish to the DM as precisely as possible. The DM has great latitude in ruling what occurs in such an instance. The greater the risk, the greater the likelihood that something goes wrong. The spell might simply fail, the effect you desire might only be partially achieved, or you might suffer some unforeseen consequence as a result of how you worded the wish. For example, wishing that a villain were dead might propel you forward in time to a period when that villain is no longer alive, effectively removing you from the game. Similarly, wishing for a legendary magic item or artifact might instantly transport you to the presence of the item's current owner. The stress of casting the spell to produce any effect other than duplicating another spell weakens you. After enduring that stress, each time you cast a spell until you finish a long rest, you take 1d10 necrotic damage per level of that spell. This damage cannot be reduced or prevented in any way. In addition, your strength drops to 3 if it isn't 3 or lower already for 2d4 days. For each of those days that you spend resting and doing nothing more than light activity, your remaining recovery time decreases by 2 days. Finally, there is a 33% chance that you are unable to cast Wish ever again if you suffer this stress. Okay, so we are going to cut out anything that only replenishes hit points, since rules as written, hit points do not correlate to various disabilities. Healing Word, Cure Wounds, Healing Spirit, Prayer of Healing, Aura of Vitality, Mass Healing Word, and Mass Cure Wounds, leaving Lesser Restoration, Greater Restoration, Heal, Regenerate, Power Word, Heal, Mass Heal, and Wish. Now, before we break down the rest of these spells, I want to talk about some math. According to the rules for selling magic items for Xanathar's Guide to Everything, here is what each level spell would cost to cast. Common, which is cantrip to first level, would be 50 gold pieces. Uncommon, second to third level, is 200 gold pieces. Rare, which is fourth to fifth level, is 2,000 gold pieces. Very rare, sixth to eighth, is 20,000 gold pieces. And legendary is 100,000 gold pieces, which is ninth level. Skilled workers make 2 gold pieces a day, and unskilled workers make 2 silver pieces a day. Common, 25 days for skilled, 250 days for unskilled. Uncommon, 100 days for skilled, 1,000 days for unskilled. Rare, 100 days for skilled, 100,000 days for unskilled. No, 10,000 days, sorry. Very rare, 10,000 days for skilled, 100,000 days for unskilled. Legendary, 50,000 days for skilled, 500,000 days for unskilled. Now that we know how much each spell would cost to be cast and how long it would take a skilled or unskilled worker to afford that, let's talk about the spells. Lesser Restoration, it's uncommon, it's 200 gold pieces, it's 100 days for skilled, and 1,000 days for unskilled. If somebody had a disability based on a disease, then Lesser Restoration can fix that. Blindness and deafness can also be removed. Paralyzed cannot, because paralysis and paralyzed are not the same thing. A paralyzed creature is incapacitated, can't take actions or reactions, and can't move or speak. Creatures that have a variety of different paralysis, half their body, legs, arm, etc., can still move, speak, and take action. So the paralyzed condition and paralysis aren't the same and therefore can't be fixed with Lesser Restoration. Greater Restoration. It's rare, it costs 2,000 gold pieces, 1,000 days for skilled, and 10,000 days for unskilled. Weirdest thing about Greater Restoration, it rules as written doesn't do what Lesser Restoration does. It removes Charmed or Petrified, removes a curse, fixes any reduced ability scores, and removes an effect reducing a target's hit points. So that's out. Heal, very rare, 20,000 gold pieces, 10,000 days for skilled, 100,000 days for unskilled. It ends blindness, deafness, and any disease, so it could remove disabilities depending on what is causing them. Regenerate, very rare, 20,000 gold pieces, 10,000 days for skilled, 100,000 days for unskilled. If someone has a disability because of a severed limb, it could be regrown. However, there's an argument to be made if you were simply born without a limb and it wasn't severed at some point, even in utero, you wouldn't be able to grow it back. Power Word Heal, legendary, 100,000 gold pieces, 50,000 days for skilled, 500,000 days for unskilled. It removes charmed, frightened, paralyzed, not paralysis, and stunned, so not going to fix anything. Mass Heal, legendary, 100,000 gold pieces, 50,000 days for skilled, 500,000 days for unskilled. This will deal with any disability created by a disease or a creature being blinded or deafened and would maybe be the most cost effective. It could heal up to 700 people, but they would need to lose at least 1 hit point. Wish, legendary, 100,000 gold pieces, 50,000 days for skilled, 500,000 days for unskilled. Wish can literally rewrite reality, and you can use it to replicate any 8th level spell or lower to avoid potentially never being able to use it again. So, the following spells could either fix any disability or some of them. Lesser Restoration, Heal, Regenerate, Mass Heal, and Wish. And of course, there's class abilities like Lay on Hands and Divine Intervention, but all the spells have a significant cost, although Lesser Restoration isn't too bad, with the one that could fix anything costing so much money. Versus the Combat Wheelchair, which starts at 200 gold pieces. The D&D one does. Daggerheart doesn't have a cost attached to it as far as I can tell, which is something that takes either less than a year for a skilled worker or over 3 years for an unskilled worker. Disability aids are infinitely more realistic than magic healing disabilities. One last thing before I wrap this up, folks. There are people that are claiming that a person in a wheelchair wouldn't be able to maneuver, climb, or fight in combat, as you can see here on the screen. To that, I want us to watch 2 short videos. When people make arguments that people in wheelchairs can't do XYZ things so they don't belong in fantasy settings, it's completely from a place of ignorance. Sometimes it's unintentional ignorance, and other times it's malicious ignorance, the choice to stay ignorant and to spread hate. Just to recap on why disabled people and characters should exist in your games. Disabled people deserve to see ourselves in the mediums we interact with. Disabled players want to play disabled characters sometimes. Fantasy worlds, even with magic, are dangerous, and money and time is cost prohibitive. See you next time, folks.